Welcome back to another episode of the Shout at the Devils podcast. I'm Daniel Amoia. I write for the Hockey Writers as well as run Devils Report on Instagram. I'm here alongside Justin Brady, who runs Devils Fanatics on Instagram. And since we last spoke to you all, the Devils went 2-2, starting with the home opener against the Leafs where they lost 4-2. Little shaky defense wasn't great. Jacob Markstrom could have been better. They rebounded with a great 5-3 victory against Washington, though. A little sloppy at times, but good teams win ugly games, and that's what they did. The offense was clicking on all cylinders. They were getting that depth scoring. Then they rebounded with an even better win, a much better win against the Utah Hockey Club, the first ever loss in Utah's history. So that's a question on with Jeopardy in say 15 years. Who's the first team to beat Utah? There you go. Answers what is the New Jersey Devils. Um and then tonight against the Carolina Hurricanes, the Devils lost 4-2 in a pretty shaky effort on the second half of a back-to-back against a well-rested Canes team. So could have been worse, could have been better. Pretty mediocre four-game stretch for the Devils, but bottom line is their record's still good right now, 4-2, and they have a chance to build off it. There's been some good, some bad. We're gonna break it all down quickly here. Justin, what were your anything that really pops to your head?
I'll start off with the good. First off, the Devils' third line of Paul Cotter, Eric Haula, and Stefan Noesen has been easily the best third line in all of hockey right now. They're doing everything: offense, defense, forecheck, back check, producing that secondary scoring that the Devils need, especially in that game against Washington. They needed that type of secondary scoring because their top guys really weren't doing it for them. So that was big in that type of game. So yeah, it's really been the most complete Devils line up to this point. So really like what I'm seeing from them. Um, the top guys are slowly starting to figure it out. Jack Hughes had a goal in tonight's game against Carolina, so hopefully that propels him going forward. I think the last two games between Carolina and Utah, he's played much better hockey, turning the puck over less, being able to enter the zone more better and cleanly. So, like what I'm seeing from Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier has 3 goals up to this point. He's been pretty good overall, great in the faceoff circle. Timo Meier was off to a great start, but kind of slowed down a little bit. Want to see him really get it going here. A line change possibly for that top line might be needed at some point because it doesn't seem like Jack Hughes and Timo Meier, Dale, you mentioned it in the past, are really gelling well at the moment. So that's something that we might be looking at or talking about in a couple episodes from now. And then Jesper Bratt, the last guy of that core four. Overall pretty solid. He had that big miss on that open net that would have tied the game against Carolina. Very unfortunate there, but it is what it is. Bratt makes that 99 out of 100 times, and unfortunately, that was the one time he missed it. So look, overall, the top guys are still doing well, and they're going to figure it out. They're going to get there. And last positive thing, Markstrom Allen, great in net over these past 6 games. The only bad game I would say from one of them was Markstrom in the home opener against Toronto. So other than that, no complaints at all from the goaltending. Markstrom, Allen, especially Markstrom, they're making the big time saves when they need to. And the Devils really haven't given up much high danger scoring chances. So credit to the Devils defense. I can go on and on about the Devils defense. They've been really good up to this point. A little sloppy against Carolina tonight, but overall, we're not going into depth in each game. Overall, I really like what I'm seeing from them. Clearing the pucks when they need to, being strong on pucks, being more physical. Overall, great stuff from them up to this point. I do want to add, I saw this from MSG Networks today during the second intermission. The Devils are doing a lot of the small things right. Small things that win teams games. So right now, Nico Hischier is top 5 in puck battle wins and rebound chances. Jack Hughes is top 5, and this is top 5 in the league for all these. Controlled entries and cycle chances and end-to-end rushes. Stefan Noesen top 5 in forechecking chances. Dougie Hamilton's top 5 in loose puck recoveries, stretch passes, and shots. And Jonathan Kovacevic's top 5 in D-zone denials, blocked passes, and loose puck recoveries. So I know that was a lot of information to throw out, but I think it was really important just to point out that this team is doing all the little things right, and Sheldon Keefe has really put the Devils in a system where they're built to succeed. They're not going to win every game, but they're looking good overall so far. And then slowly, I know I'm yapping right now. I'm going to get into the negatives real quick. The Devils' fourth line yikes. It's really been bad. Daniel, I know you're pretty high on Andre Palat, but I just really can't back that right now. He just has not looked good. He has his defensive moments at points. He's been physical, which I like. But other than that, he's just not providing any offense and really doing nothing out there. And Bastion and Lazar has even been disappointing up to this point. So that would be the one negative I would pinpoint. But other than that, 4-2, can't complain really at all. So really happy with the start. So Daniel, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like we said in the beginning, there's good and there's bad, and it's kind of whatever type of fan you are. If you're listening to this, that's how you're gonna determine the start. If you're more of an optimistic fan, you're gonna be like, yeah, there's great signs. The defense looks a lot better, stuff like that. And then if you're more of a negative fan, which I'm sure plenty of people listening to this are, you're gonna be frustrated and be like, they're still not 100% gelling. They're still shaky at times. Um, there's always something you could nitpick, especially in a small sample size. But for the most part, I think they're trending in a positive direction. Goaltending is a big thing, as we know, and you said basically 5 of 6 games they've gotten an above average goaltending performance. Last year it was usually 5 of 6 they got a horrendous goaltending performance. So over the long run, I mean, with all the injuries and everything, they were almost a playoff team last year, and that's also with the horrendous goaltending. So just that goaltending boost alone, no matter what else happens, you would think should at least push them to be a borderline wild card team. And then if the team's staying healthy, everything else is working well, potentially much better than that. But thinking that the absolute floor is a fringe wild card team is a good thing in a sense, because once you get in the playoffs, if you're hot, you're hot. But anyway, that's a thing for later road. Big on the goaltending. You did mention those top 5 stats, which I agree and disagree with. The top 5 stats are a little misleading because the Devils have played more games than any team in the NHL. At least a couple more games. So they're going to be a little skewed in the Devils' favor. With that being said, though, they are doing a lot of those little things right. Especially guys like Stefan Nason winning those board battles, stuff like that. Even a guy like Seamus Casey, who is really, truly breaking out. He is his offensive ability. I can't say, I mean, I'm surprised, but I can't say I'm shocked, because Seamus Casey is an offensive defenseman, but the way he's able to think defense, the way he's able to be almost one step ahead of the opposition is something that I don't think anyone really expected. And Sheldon Keefe last night or yesterday afternoon after the Utah game spoke glowingly of him. Like the way Keefe talked about him, you'd think Casey was a 10-year vet. It was really impressive. So, that's important as well, to be doing all those little things and to have guys like Casey breaking out, especially in the absence of Luke Hughes. I mean, you could argue Casey's a lot smaller than Luke Hughes, and his defensive ability has been much better than anything Luke Hughes showed last year, which is something that I don't think anyone really thought you'd be saying with such an undersized defenseman. But Casey truly has excelled in his role. I know you mentioned the fourth line as well. Yeah, I'm high on Andre Palat as a complementary player for a top line, and he serves no purpose on the fourth line, essentially. It's unfortunate placement, but it's hard to really do anything else when the third line is working that well. You could look at Pasta. You don't want to mix it up too much, but that's something Keefe is known to do, so hopefully that works out. It's just almost frustrating in a sense, because like the whole world knows how talented Timo Meier, Jesper Bratt, and Jack Hughes are, and there's really no reason that 3 guys that talented shouldn't work on a line and figure it out eventually. And I'll give them credit; they have been. The past 2 games, they've been much better. Jack Hughes obviously scoring the goal. He notched an assist against Utah. Jesper Bratt chipping in. Timo Meier hasn't. I don't think he's got on the score sheet, but they've been driving play for the most part. Offense-wise, they've been one of the better lines. So I still would give them a good chunk of games to try to figure it out. But, I mean, you don't want that expensive of a fourth liner with Andre Palat. I mean, Curtis Lazar, I mean, I guess you could say he's disappointed, but he's always been a defense-first, face-off kind of guy. And to have him with Palat, who, again, is a complementary player for elite wingers. He's not really playing the type of game for a fourth line who doesn't have that kind of talent. Your best case scenario is hope they give up no goals and score no goals in a game. You're not really expecting any offensive production from them. But Nathan Bastian on that line too. I know some of the advanced numbers have said he hasn't been that bad, but from the eye test, this is just a team that's built so much on speed, and Nathan Bastian, no part of him says speed. So it's kind of tough. I don't know if there's really a solution for that, and they're never going to be as bad as they were tonight. I mean, the game against Carolina, even for though the fourth line has struggled, they were on the second half of a back-to-back against a very talented, quick and stifling Canes team, and the fourth line, with that in mind, just really they were set up for failure from the beginning, from puck drop. So I don't expect them to be that bad in the future, but with that being said, with the way the third line is, which phenomenal, clearly the best third line in the league as of right now. It's something you got to kind of monitor and live with, and maybe if you need to shake things up, maybe go to Utica or something like that and try to figure it out. But that's a later problem. But right now, the Devils are still 4-2. There's been some good, there's been some bad. I don't think I've touched on it yet. The defense as a whole, the buy-in from the team has been so much better, especially from one guy in particular, Dougie Hamilton, who, let's face it, last season was a what's the word? Yes, a liability on skates. He was responsible for a good chunk of odd man rushes against. I believe by the numbers, I did some research and wrote an article yesterday. He's cut down on scoring chances against by 32%. And a big credit of that is to Brendan Dillon and Sheldon Keefe for having that buy-in. It's something I talked to Sheldon about yesterday. He said Dougie has definitely bought into the defense. I think Dillon as a partner is always talking to him and helping him, and that's important. But certainly Dougie's been more attentive to defense. His box outs have improved dramatically to protect our net, even in a short amount of time. We need that from everyone. And that's true because, yes, Dougie Hamilton is such a talented offensive player, but it is definitely a struggle at times for the Devils the past few seasons because you kind of had to hold your breath. It was like, oh, another odd man rush. Guess whose fault it is? And he really, for someone so large, had no physical bone in his body. And all of a sudden, he's using his physicality much more. He's not making those inopportune pinches and kind of just roaming around and I guess you could say doing what Dougie wants because he's being much more structured, playing much more as a team. And guess what? I know the score sheet says he's not there, but if you look at all the advanced numbers, the shots through to the net, the offensive chances, they're all the same. So Dougie Hamilton, the offensive player, is still there, and we're seeing right now living proof that Dougie Hamilton can be a competent defensive defenseman while still generating those offensive chances and helping on that side of the puck. So both with Jack Hughes and Dougie Hamilton, I'm expecting the floodgates to open very soon and them to get on the board offensively.
Yeah, to build on what you said about Dougie Hamilton, if you asked me before the season started if he had 0 points in 6 games through the season, I think I would have been upset. But right now, talking about this, I'm really not. Daniel, you bring up so many great points. He's been really good on defense, and we really haven't been able to say that about Dougie through his tenure with the Devils. So it's a big plus size to have your top pairing defense, one of your top pairing defensemen, to be playing at a great high level on defense, and the offense will come. He's getting involved in there with the power play and stuff like that. The offense will come for Dougie. I'm not really concerned about that. And yeah, I like how you touched on Palat with not being a liability on the fourth line because yeah, maybe he can be in that top 6 role. We saw last season when he was paired with Nico Easter and Jesper Bratt. They really gelled well together at one point in February and March. So maybe that's something that you want to explore at some point. But for now, for me, I would not change any of the lines. Wait until you get to at least game number 10 or 11, and then see maybe if you want to change something from there. These guys are still learning how to play together. A lot of new guys on this team. So give them time to figure it out, and I'm sure everything will work out. But overall, just really pleased with the team. Defense, great. Offense, little lackluster from the top guys, but they'll figure it out at one point or another. So yeah, great stuff overall so far. But Daniel, you want to get into our player spotlight for these last 4 games?
Yeah, well, before I even get into that real quick, I just want to add that the reason that I'm personally not that concerned with some of the negatives we've seen is because the depth scoring they're getting is so crucial. And the fact that those top guys, they've chipped in occasionally, but not as much as you'd want your top guys to produce. I mean, obviously Jack Hughes only has 1 goal right now. Um, that's really big. So, once those guys get rolling, like we said, that they could possibly be putting up 5-6 goals a night, and with the goaltending they're getting, as long as that it doesn't decrease dramatically, that should be a definite W in the book. So, anyways, go ahead, kick us off with your players.
All right, number one, I got 2 players. Jacob Markstrom, number one. We touched on him already. I have to give Markstrom his flowers. Especially from tonight's game against Carolina. Yes, he gave up 3 goals, but the Devils would have lost this type of game 7-2 last season if they had Vanacek or Schmidt. And Dale, you agree with that? It really is. The Hurricanes had a lot of high danger scoring chances in this game, and Markstrom was able to fend them off a lot of front net chances, a lot of chances from the slot, 2 or 3 odd man rushes, 2 breakaways. The defense wasn't the best in this game against Carolina, and Markstrom was able to keep the Devils in this game all the way to the end. Bratt could have tied the game, and we could have been talking about how Markstrom stole this game for the Devils, but unfortunately, the Devils got unlucky there. But it is what it is. Markstrom was really good in the end. Overall, I really liked what I've seen from him so far. In the 4 games he started, the first game of the season had one of the best performances by a Devils goaltender in a long time. And yeah, the Toronto game was a little shaky. Washington, I thought he played pretty solid overall. And this game, another great game, I would say. So look, I'm really happy with Markstrom, and I'm happy that we are not coming on here and saying, "Oh, the Devils are the goalies are the reason the Devils are losing games or almost losing games." We're not. Nobody's saying that right now. If anything, it's on the top players or some other reason why the Devils have lost their first 2 games to the season. Goaltending has not been the problem whatsoever. So I'm really happy to say that. And Jake Allen's been great. He had a big shutout win over Utah, so credit to him. And for a player, I want to point out Seamus Casey. I know you touched on him as well, Daniel. That was going to be the guy that I was going to choose the whole time. But man, it's just like so weird to see how through 6 games he looks like a complete defenseman. Everybody's touching on how he's such a smart player and his high IQ is on a whole nother level, and that translates with his play on the ice. It really does. We saw that turnover that he had that forced turnover that he had against the Utah Hockey Club, which resulted in a goal. Amazing play. I don't want to slander Luke Hughes, but Seamus Casey has looked better than Luke Hughes has had in just 6 games. Hot take. Call me out for it. Flood my DMs with hate. I don't care. It's just the truth. Seamus Casey has looked better than Luke Hughes, and it's going to annoy me so much when Luke Hughes is healthy and he's going to come in for Seamus Casey. It's really going to annoy me. And I know Luke Hughes the potential is unlimited for him, but it's just going to annoy me so much when Seamus Casey comes out of the lineup because he just looks so good. And it makes sense that they're going to take him out because he's only 20 years old and
Why though? If
what?
if Seamus Casey is playing the way he is right now, why does it make sense? Why does he have to come out?
Because I don't know. That's the thing. I don't have an answer to that, but we just know it's gonna happen.
I am fully confident that if Seamus Casey is continuing the way he's playing, Jonathan Kovacevic will come out of the lineup. But anywho, Luke Hughes is not back yet. That's a story for a whole nother episode.
That's the thing, though. Kovacevic has looked great as well. So
it's all good problems to have.
No, this is a great problem. I'm happy I'm coming on here and discussing this right now. But if I had to choose out of everybody, I would choose Nemec, and I don't want to choose Nemec. It's hard. It's really hard to make a decision when Pesci and Luke Hughes comes back, it's a good problem to have. The Devils could always go 11-7 if they really wanted to keep a 7 defenseman playing in every game, even though I'm not favorable. I don't know, Daniel, I don't like the 11-7 either, trust me. But, I mean, that's an idea that they can do if they wanted to. But I don't know. It's just Casey has been that great of a player, and through 6 games, if he plays a full NHL season, he's a Calder Trophy favorite. Nobody's denying that right now. He's looked great. So go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that because you talked about because Casey's so young. Nemitz is the same age, and I know because he was a second overall pick, there's a stigma behind you can't take him out of the lineup. Look, Nemitz has struggled, and granted, this defense is playing so well that he's still a +1, but he hasn't looked that great. Maybe a little sophomore slump, and yes, he dealt with that injury that he suffered in the Olympic qualifiers. I'm not gonna write the guy off right now, but he has struggled. He definitely hasn't really been a game changer, and if Casey's gonna be that game changer, I don't see why you don't send Nemitz to Utica, where he was supposed to season all of last season anyway, and was only up for injury purposes. And that's not saying that he isn't allowed to be upset by it. He played well enough to earn his role, but if in the current he's not living up to that, Utica is a great place for defensemen to grow. And actually, Casey said that over the summer when I was talking to him. He was very welcoming to the opportunity to go to Utica, and he knew what that would do for his development. And it obviously didn't end up happening because of injuries as well. He ends up with the big club, and he's been showing out and really not giving them a reason to send him down. But I don't think it's a bad thing if Nemitz is continuing to play this way. And again, this is a conversation for later because we don't know when Brett Pesce or Luke Hughes is coming back as of right now. So we'll discuss at a later point. But
Well, maybe it's a whole episode.
Yeah, it really is. It's a dilemma, but it's a good dilemma to have because the Devils are now sitting on a very large amount of young, talented defensemen who no one really wants to take out of the lineup. So we'll figure that all out. As for my players, I'm gonna go off the board a little bit. Jonas Siegenthaler. I think pretty rightfully grilled his play all of last season on this podcast because he was one of the best defensive defensemen in the league, and he looked, I mean, he looked like he shouldn't even be in the AHL at points last season. And I spoke to him about it. He said it was because of his injuries. He seemed like he was focused and ready to get back on track. Played much better at the World Championships and came in this season. Him and I was gonna say him and Jonas Siegenthaler. Siegenthaler and Jonathan Kovacevic have played phenomenally. According to expected goals for percentage, 9th best defensive pairing in the entire league. They're not bringing a ton of offense, but they are completely stifling the opposition. Even though they're not creating that offense, they're giving up even less, way less than they're creating. So they've been phenomenal, the two of them together, and Siegenthaler is just he looked shaky, a lot of giveaways last year, and just didn't look right. Not being as physical, but this year, he looks like he was 2-3 years ago, where he was one of the best defensive defensemen in the league. And I said it so much during the offseason. That is such a crucial thing. And I didn't think we'd see it, honestly. And there's still time for him to regress, technically. I'm not saying he's going to play like this all season, but if he does, that is ginormous for the Devils, and not enough people are talking about it because that stifling defensive ability is so crucial to the team. So, got to give credit where it's due. Jonas Siegenthaler, just absolutely tremendous. And we've talked about him before, but Paul Cotter, I mean, he's been talked about so much, I almost feel like I shouldn't even bring him up, but he just does everything the Devils need so well. He's such a physical presence. Against Utah, he had 8 hits. The entire Utah team had 8 hits. He plays physically. He has great hands. His hands alone lead him to, it seems, 1 to 2 high danger scoring chances a night. Just from the eye test. Points wise, I mean, he has the same number of points as Hischier and Bratt. And the way he works with Stefan Noesen and Eric Halla, just a line that just grinds for everything. They know they don't have the shot or the speed necessarily of guys like Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt, but they don't care. They're going to be just as impactful on a night, both with their stifling defensive ability and their ability to create goals solely off their hard work. And a lot of that is because Paul Cotter just works so hard, throwing the body around, playing great defense, using his hands to create chances. And he has a fairly underrated shot as well. And when you have those type of hands in close, as we've seen on 2 of his goals, you could really you could make some pretty incredible things happen. So hats off to Paul Cotter. He has been phenomenal. I don't think anyone had Paul Cotter with the same number of points as Heischer and Hughes at this point in the season, but I mean he's deserved it. And there's a reason that I could say with almost 100% confidence, and you can all clip this and send it when it happens, because Paul Cotter is going to see a good amount of games in the top 6 at some point.
I,
There's Go
I,
ahead.
so funny enough, I want to get it. I don't know what episode I said this. I said I wouldn't be surprised if Paul Cotter found himself in a top 6 role by the end of the season. We're already talking about this 6 games into the season. I want to give myself credit where credit's due. Cotter, me and Daniel both known that Cotter was a good player to trade for, and everybody was slandering the trade. Why would you trade Alexander Holtz and Akira Schmid? Because you get players that help win you championships. And Paul Cotter is the definition of that type of player that could impact a game in so many different ways. One day he's scoring 2 goals. One day he has 8 hits. He's able to impact the game in so many different ways, and that is such a great quality to have in a player. This is a Paul Cotter podcast now, and we love Paul Cotter on here. He's been awesome, and you really cannot talk enough about great things about him. He's been great for the Devils.
Yeah, and not even to put you down, but he spent a good amount of time in Vegas's golden 6. It's way too late for this right now.
We're gonna have to edit some of this out.
In Vegas's top 6 last year, I mean, he spent a good amount of time up there because he earned it, and maybe the points weren't there. I think he only scored like 9 goals, and I could say with almost 100% confidence with the line he's on, he's gonna probably, if he's healthy, score more than 9 goals this year. He has 4 already, but I mean, he earned that position by being so successful in so many facets of the game, kind of like Andre Palat when he's at his best, a complementary player. And Paul Cotter overall, off the score sheet, will do a lot more than Andre Palat. I think I saw a comment like, it's crazy how the Devils got like basically what they wanted Andre Palat to be out of a guy who's making almost league minimum in Paul Cotter. So yeah, go ahead.
And also to add, he's 24 years old. The sky's the limit with Paul Cotter. The Devils really got a great player, and a great player at a great value and great contract. Like, it was a great trade by Fitzy, and I don't think anybody's calling it a bad trade anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to jump too far to conclusions, but because again, it only has been 6 games. But even if Cotter's offense regresses a little bit, what he's doing off the puck is still so valuable, which frankly, no matter what, Alexander Holtz, I could say with confidence, will never do what Paul Cotter does. Paul Cotter already has, I think, almost 40% of the hits that Holtz had the entirety of last season in 82 games. So if that doesn't say, I don't know what does. But he just fits the mold of what the Devils need perfectly. And I'm ending this conversation here because this podcast will go for an hour if we talk about Paul Cotter and what he brings to the Devils. But bottom line, there's a lot of good sides. The depth scoring's there, the goaltending's there. Yes, there's been a little shakiness at times. The Simone Nemitz hasn't been great. Top guys still gelling. Power play hasn't been great. Speaking of penalty kill, phenomenal. 16 of 17 now. One of the best penalty kills in the league. I think they're 3rd or 4th right now. So there's always going to be good and bad. 4-2, you can't really be upset with that start if you're a Devils fan. And we're going to start seeing what this team is truly made out of in these next few contests. Their next one is in Ottawa on Thursday, and then back home for Washington and Tampa Bay on the 19th and 22nd, respectively. So we'll see how that all goes. Going to be interesting, but we're really going to get a glimpse of what this team is made out of, I think. And I think if they're able to rattle off 2 or 3 of these next 3, if the Devils are able to do that, you're gonna start seeing a lot more positivity, because it's still pretty mixed right now amongst the fan base. So, any last words, Justin?
Yeah, I'll just say one last thing is you could tell the players are buying into Sheldon Keefe's system that he's building right now. And the players are only going to get better. We talked a lot of positive about players we didn't expect to talk positive of. And the players that we're a little down on, we know they're going to figure it out and get to that level that we know they can get to. So once all these players are playing at the highest levels they can possible and hopefully stay healthy, this team will be unstoppable if all those things go right. So that's all I have to say.
And that's kind of what another thing Sheldon Keefe told me last night, when he said our entire team has given defense an enhanced focus since the start of camp. Then he also touched on Jack Hughes real quick. He's talking about how it's not just the defensemen, it's the forwards too that are buying in. He said Jack is doing a lot of really good things without the puck that aren't showing up. And maybe you're not used to seeing it from him, or you're not looking for it from a guy like him. But that's another guy to me that's not complicating the game when he's out there. He's doing good things even when he's not scoring. And Jack Hughes is still a plus, even though his offense and on the power play, he's definitely been shaky. And we know offense-wise, Jack Hughes is capable of so much more, but he's at least holding his own and trying to impact the game in other ways. And I think that's why I didn't even mention Jack Hughes when I asked the question to Keefe, and Keefe brought him up himself. And I think that just shows that Keefe sees that buy-in and he's going to praise that. So again, that's just another sign of something that's more important for the long run than the record right now. But 4-2, not too shabby, could definitely be worse. And it's something the Devils are in a good spot to build off of. So thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it. If we sounded stupid or anything, it's pretty late doing this, but we're doing it for all of you. We appreciate all the support. You all have been truly incredible, and we're looking to keep continuing churning out the content this season. So we'll see you all next episode. Peace out.